That was quite an extraordinary session, and I suppose sums up pretty much what they're trying to do. If lose wickets, just keep going, keep putting the opposition under pressure.
Absolutely spot on, and I reckon the shot that summed up the McCullum-Stokes revolution was Ollie Pope's first delivery. They've just lost a wicket to the mystery spinner. Every other generation before would have gone in going, right, let's have a look at this lad. Let's spend 5-10 minutes at the crease having a look at him. Ollie Pope, first delivery he faces, reverse sweeps it for 4. And that sort of sets up the mindset of this team, that taking away the fear of failure, as long as you've prepped for that shot, as long as you know what you're doing, as long as it's your shot, go and play it. Don't worry about how the reaction will be when you come back in the dressing room or in the media or in the press box. Is it your shot? Is it your go-to shot? And at the end of this game, who knows, that partnership, 79, between Duckett and Pope, when they took the attack to the spinners, may well be the crucial partnership. Our era may have walked off that pitch 80 for 5 and in a massive hole, but because England continue to be positive, they're about par at the moment. Fascinating the way they play, and fascinating session.
Ath, when you speak to the players, and you interviewed Brendan McCullum in the lot ahead of the last Test match in Rawalpindi, do you get a full sense that every player is not only buying into this, but they believe in the way they're going about it and are very comfortable in their own skin?
I think that's the big difference, really. There have always been ultra-aggressive players in Test match cricket, haven't there? From all countries. Virender Sehwag, Viv Richards, Matthew Hayden, you could name them, many of them. I think the difference with this team is the way that the whole unit, the whole collective is buying into this approach. You know, it's not just the odd dasher surrounded by... Additionally, teams have set up with, you know, some insurance policies there. The difference is with this team, I think, that all 11 are going for it and are certainly buying into it. I think there is a great deal of belief in that team, partly because the results are speaking for themselves. What's he won? 7 out of 8 at the moment, is it, under Stokes and McCullum? If you listen to Ollie Robinson at the end of the first Test match, he said, you know, he's never played in a team where he's felt as much belief flowing through it that they can turn any situation around. I spoke to Harry Brook yesterday ahead of this game, and he said, you know, we young batsmen, we just feel we can go out there and do anything. Just watching them in practice yesterday, actually. Jimmy Anderson, we were watching Jimmy Anderson. He was batting right-handed in the nets and bowling left-handed. I mean, you know, he's not going to do that all the time, but it's just the kind of, the things that you do as a kid, having fun in the backyard, really. That's the kind of attitude that they're trying to permeate through this team. Enjoy the moment, play in this super aggressive style, and of course, if the results continue to follow, very few people can quibble with it. But it is going to be perhaps a little bit more difficult on a surface like this. Pakistan have clearly taken their chances here. 1-0 down after Pindi. They've picked a team with one seamer and half a seamer. Fahim Ashraf has never opened in Test cricket before with the ball, and then filled it with spin, 2 wrist spinners and a left-arm spinner who's going to be quite tricky on this surface. So they're taking their chances. They're saying, all right, you scored at 7 and over on a flatten in Pindi. What are you going to do on this one? And as Nasser said, it's been a fascinating opening couple of hours.
Broady, this is no slight on any of the regimes that have gone before, or even asking you to pass comment on who's been in charge before. But when you were in that dressing room last summer, did it feel brand new, fresh, and a place you really wanted to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And a few things worked in favour of that. The ending of COVID bubbles. You know, we spent the Australia tour doing 14 days quarantine and only being able to socialise outside in threes, and quite, you know, an oppressive situation. So very hard to express yourself on a cricket field when you're not even seeing your teammates outside of cricket. And Baz and Stokesy came in at the start of the summer with a completely fresh approach, and it was all about enjoyment. And actually, we're in an entertainment industry. Let's go out to make people watch us and have fun and take the result out of it. There's no pressure on winning and losing, as long as we're playing in a style that we enjoy and that people will enjoy to watch. That's our victory. And yeah, for younger players, Athers talk about Harry Brook feeling very fresh and feel like there's no consequences to getting out. Even at Old Trafford, a small example of me, I don't like batting. I have a bit of a swing now and again. But I was batting 8 and at Old Trafford, and Baz came to me and goes, I just want you to get off the mark with a 6. I was like, what? He goes, just try and hit a 6 when you're not. I went out with that mindset. Okay, well, if he wants me to try and hit a 6 first ball, then I will.
And the night watchman thing as well with you.
The Night Hawk.
The Night Hawk.
Yeah, yeah. That started, I was at Trent Bridge, and Popey and Rooty, I think, are both on hundreds, batting beautifully. And I'd just gone upstairs to make a coffee and get a little chocolate digester, a protein shake. And just sat down, and Baz came walking up. Broady, you're in next. I'm in my flip-flops. Like, what? He goes, you're in next. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, go get your pads on. So I rushed down, get my pads on. And he's sort of hovering around my spot. And he goes, I just think the crowd have gone a bit quiet. You're a local boy. Go and try and hit your first ball for 4 and see if get them revved up again. I was like, well, surely Ben Stokes got a better chance of hitting his first ball for 4 than me. He goes, I know, but the crowd will just a bit of a roar. And if you get out second ball, we're all good. I'm like, okay. And I sat there for an hour with my pads on, and then he just thought, new ball came. And I was then staring at him like, not sure about this, Baz. And he's like, yeah, take him off, Stokesy, and you go.
I mean, it sounds, and it was a question that Ath put to Brendan the other day when he interviewed him about having a cigar and a glass of red and just saying, go out there and whack it. And stories like that sort of back that up a wee bit. But there is thinking behind it. He's thinking about the crowd, local boy getting out there. There is a reason that they are doing this.
Yeah,
it's not just whatever, go and play.
The thought process is, and we felt that from listening to Ben at the back end of the Test match in terms of the reasons that he made the decisions he made in the Test at Islamabad. The thought processes are there. They're just not normal ones. They're just not your sort of like run-of-the-mill. This is our thinking. This is what's happened before. This is what's gone before. This is conventional wisdom. There's wisdom there, but it's coming from a place that people would have missed or would actually have thought wasn't particularly important in the past. And look, the weird thing about all of this is, we're sat here, we're talking about it, the guys out there are talking about it. The thing that doesn't get spoken about enough is the fact that they don't care what we say or what we think. Broady's now playing both sides of the fence. But what we make of it and what everybody else makes of it does not matter to them. What matters to them is having a great time, and the more fun that they have going out there and showing how skillful they are and how much daring do they have, the better the results are coming. And that's the most important thing. Why would you not be winning or enjoying it more when you're winning? You win more when you're enjoying it. And if you're enjoying it, you've got a damn good chance of winning games. And that's what's happened ever since they've taken over.
Just on Butch's point there of the mindset and doing it slightly differently. At Trent Bridge again, New Zealand got 500, didn't they? We got 500. It could have easily gone into a draw. And we were 1-0 up, having won at Lord's, got to tea on day 5, and we needed, I can't remember exact numbers, but it was probably 170, 180.
160,
what were we, 4 down, Stokesy and Johnny at the crease? And Baz got everyone into the changing room and just said, look guys, not interested in the draw at all. We're going for the win at all costs. So everyone preparing to bat. I don't want any thought process of shutting up shop. I don't want any questions of it. Even down to Jimmy at 11. Jimmy, if you get in, try and hit boundaries and go for the win, whatever the score is. So everyone just looked at you and went, okay, we're going for the win then. And then Johnny went out, ducked the first ball. Stokesy walked down to the other end and said, why are you ducking? Hit it for 6. And then he just went berserk, didn't he? I think you were on comms. Then as soon as that mindset changed for Johnny, he was like, okay, I'll try and pull it. And then Matt Henry had nowhere to go.
Well, I think I'm right in saying, because I'm not out there obviously, but in a press conference, a scenario was put to Ben whereby England were 9 down, 20 runs needed off the last over of Test match, and Jimmy Anderson on strike. Do you want him to go for the win? And he just went, yes.
Batting right-handed.
Yes, that was ahead of this game. Somebody put that question to him. Sorry, I wasn't sure whether that was thrown at me or not. But, yeah, they put that question to him. The only thing I'd say is there's no dishonour in an honourable draw. You obviously absolutely try and win a game from the first ball, and you will go all out to get yourself in a position to win every game you can in whatever conditions. There may come a point where the win then becomes impossible, and there is such a thing as probably impossible if you need 200 to win with Jimmy Anderson at the crease, maybe. And then there's no dishonour in fighting as hard as you can for a draw. Think of some of the great moments, actually, in Test match cricket that we've seen. The Panesar-Anderson draw at Cardiff, the Onions Collingwood draw at Cape Town and Centurion, I think, from memory. I'm absolutely not advocating playing for draws, but when you can't win, there's nothing wrong then with fighting for an honourable draw. You know, if it's the first Test match in the series, it may help you win an Ashes series or whatever. So there's no dishonour in that, but it is absolutely clear that England want to play for the win from the first ball, and until it becomes absolutely impossible that they can't. And I admire that approach and applaud it.
Nasser, come to you on this one, because this is the thing you've always said about this. The results are the thing that matters, though, aren't they? If they keep winning like they have done so to start with, it's great. But what happens as and when, as it will in cricket, the results start going against you?
I think the whole point is that if you change the culture, the results will come. And if you change the culture properly, the results don't matter as much, because it's the culture that's more important. You know, I've been very lucky. I'm going to drop some names here, I'm afraid, lads, but I've been doing a documentary on leadership for Sky and management. And I've spoken to Owen Morgan and Jurgen Klopp and Sir David Brailsford and various others, Paul McGinley, and talking about leadership in high pressurised situations and sport. And they talk about culture changes and taking away that fear of failure. It is about the process, and I'm real management. He would hate me for this now. It's almost management speak. It's about the process, not the result. The moment you start focusing in on the result, you get the fear of failure. The moment you focus on the process, you take that away. So Klopp talks about in football, when he came to Liverpool, all they were interested in was the mistakes. And he'd had to turn to him and say, mistakes happen in football. That is part of football. McGinley talks about the 10-foot putt at the Belfry, where Sam Torrance meets him at the bridge on that hole with a big smile on his face and said, enjoy it. This is why I played you 9th on the singles days. Go and enjoy this moment. It is so much easier said than done. I was a fearful cricketer that walked out there, what if I get out? What if I play a bad shot? I was worried about the result, not the process. And the mind games that McCullum and Stokes, and it's like Morgan. Morgan, when I spoke to him after that Ageas Bowl, when they were bowled out in 45 overs, he was not having a bar of it. This is how we're going to play. Once that message is crystal clear and doesn't change, when Mark Butcher stands up with Ben Stokes at the Oval and says, come on, Stokes, you're a better batter than this. We all know Ben Stokes is a better batter than it, but the reason he's playing like that, the reason he comes down just before lunch and chips it over Long On's head, is because he's sending that message time and time again that it's the process that comes and results will come with it. I find it fascinating because for me, the battle at the highest level is played at the in your mind, completely in your mind, and that's what they're trying to do, McCullum and Stokes.
Is there any fear in that dressing room, would you say? Or has it all been removed from the atmosphere and the vocabulary that's used, the phrases that are used from Stokes and McCullum?
Yeah, I don't think there is any fear, to be honest.
And is that a big change?
Huge change, yeah, huge change. Yeah. And you're right, it is the language that's used in the changing room that has cleared that fear of failure up, because you play an over-aggressive shot like Harry Brooks walking back into the change room in years gone by, probably going 10 minutes before lunch, caught long off, probably didn't execute that overly well. And Baz won't be negative towards him at all. Stokesy won't be negative. It will be, you should have hit it for 6. And could you have got your technique slightly better? Maybe, but the mindset was absolutely spot on. Try and put the pressure back on the bowler. And I suppose, I bowled at Stokesy at Lords before the New Zealand Test, before his first reign, the first training day, and he tried to hit every single ball for 4 in the net, like religiously, every single one. And the Lords nets were nipping around, and he just tapped me on the glove on the way out. Said, I had to do that to show everyone this is what I mean. And it was so over the top in the net. It was stepping across, flicking it, whacking it. But his mindset is he has to show the way forward.
Right.
by being super aggressive and super attacking. And we saw that in the summer. There were times that he got caught long off and hit them straight up. But him showing the changing room that this is what I want you all to do is a better way for him to lead than just to say it.
Ath, I'm going to come to you. It's sort of a two-part statement, really, more than a question, which I don't like doing. But McCullum has some form with sort of changing cultures, because he did it with New Zealand cricket, who were not particularly well liked, and it sort of hit them in the face, and he did something about that, and it worked. And I just wonder what you think about how Stokes was feeling in the last couple of years when he wasn't captain. Was there this desire to play this cricket within him, and he just wasn't able to get it out because he wasn't in charge? Or all of a sudden he's got the armband and he can do what he wants?
Yeah, he was asked a little bit about that as well, actually, in the run-up to this game. And you know, I would say the one great characteristic of Stokes, or one of his great characteristics, is loyalty. He is an extremely loyal person in sport and life. And of course, he wasn't captain then. Joe Root was captain. And he said, his quote was, "I stood by Joe Root every step of the way." When he was asked, why didn't you pipe up when Root was in charge and say, let's play a different way, he said that was Joe Root's team. He's an extremely loyal person, and he stood by Root every step of the way. And he certainly didn't manoeuvre to get the captaincy. It was Root, of course, who stepped down. But the moment that Rob Key rang him, and there was nobody else to do the job, it had to be Ben Stokes. The moment he rang him, he thought, well, OK, it's my team now. It's not Joe Root's team. I can do it my way. I can take it in a different direction, and I can do things rather differently. You know, I was at Worcester, actually, when he played his first innings for Durham of the summer. He'd just been appointed England captain, and he came out to play his first innings of the county season. And he smoked 100 before lunch, if you remember, and hit, forgotten the name of the left-arm spinner. He hit him all round the park. He sent the young lad a text, actually, after the game. It took him for 30-odd in and over. And that was a statement right there and then, even though it was just for Durham and not England, and before the international season has started, he was just showing everybody how he intended to go about things. So they're two peas in a pod. They think very similarly. It was a genius move from Rob to give the coaching job to Brendan McCullum, because I don't think really Brendan was in the conversation. There were lots of names floated around, and people might have thought about Brendan for the white ball job, but Rob recognised the need, more of a need for the test match team. So to put those two together was a masterstroke, really. And for all, I'm not a great fan of management speak, by the way, as Nasser knows, but I absolutely get what he was saying. But for all that, and you know, in times there'll be some Harvard Business School course on the Stokes and McCullum transformation of English cricket. There's bound to be, as there had been with Ferguson and Manchester United. But you know, the longer I'm around sport, the more I recognise that there are just some special people, and that Ben Stokes is one of those, and probably Brendan McCullum as well, who I don't know as well. But some people are just born leaders. They're born with it, and they're a little bit apart. And I really think he's one of those cricketers. We've seen it time and again when he's not been captain in the World Cup and the Ashes at Headingley. Some people are just born a bit different, and he is a bit different.
Go on, Nas.
I just want to add, actually, with all this stuff that we're talking about, the mind games, the other tick that Ben Stokes has in his box is his tactical nous. Not very often do you get people who can tick every box as a leader. Some were great man managers like, you know, Mike Brearley. Some were tactically brilliant like Michael Vaughan in the 2005. So this partnership of McCullum and Stokes off the field. But actually what he combines that with, if you look at that last test match, tactically he's really switched on. I think we knew that from his hundreds in Headingley and his hundreds in World Cup finals. But tactically, when not to take the new ball, when to take the new ball, when to introduce Leach, when to hold himself back. So it's not just the mind games. He combines that with very good cricketing decisions on the field. When you look down from the media centre and Ben Stokes is captaining, he often makes some very, very good tactical decisions as well. It is not all about bluff and bravado and we're going to have fun and enjoy ourselves. He combines that by making the right decision, which is just as important, I can tell you.
If I might just add one thing, it goes a lot to the heart of intelligence as well. Ben Stokes, I think he told me he had one GCSE in PE or something. You know, the difference to my mind between people often confuse academic intelligence with sporting or cricketing intelligence. The two, one does not necessarily automatically bring the other. You can have both. You can have both. Mike Brearley, you can have both. But, you know, Ben Stokes called Harry Brook dumb, I think, didn't he, before the young lad's debut. And I suspect Harry's not a great academic either, but he's cricketing smart. He's smart up there with his cricketing decisions, maybe not today, but generally. And I think you see that with Ben Stokes as well. There's a kind of streetwise cricketing intelligence there. And there are different types of intelligence, I think, for people, which I find very interesting.
Nas, take Albert Einstein for lunch. We have had enough of you two. Get out of the sun.